Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Welcome to this Chuck Norris November live stream. Yeah, I just skipped the intro. A lot of words came up on the screen, so we're just going live. Mike's DVD and Blu-ray was here at 3:30 today, saying, "Hey Dan, hey Mike, I hope you come back." And Jim, what's going on, Jim? Don't tell Chuck, but I've never seen anything of his ever, except commercials and interviews. Jim, I mean, we like horror movies. Well, we'll get into it, Jim, because I've got probably 3 movies on here that feel like horror movies and are crossover horror movies for sure. But thanks for coming, Jim. I appreciate it. So for what I kind of eased into this, you know, I had this vague idea that I was going to do like a Norris November, considering last year I saw The Horror Man and Horrific Nightmares JM. They did a ranking of 10. They picked 10 Chuck Norris films and they ranked them together, and they called it Norris November. So that stuck in my mind. I watched a lot of Chuck Norris movies last year. Some of them I rewatched, and then I got a few more that I watched for the first time. I picked 10, and I'm going to rank them. And then I have some special categories at the end, like some of the best fights, best co-stars, best villains, so forth. But I eased into it because I've been reviewing all the Bruce Lee movies in this little box set here, all of his 5 movies. So the first review I did this month was Way of the Dragon, a.k.a. Return of the Dragon, where Chuck Norris plays Colt, sort of the bad guy. So I'm not going to be ranking that one because that's more of a Bruce Lee film with Chuck Norris. But I am going to include it in the consideration for the special categories. Jim, deprived childhood, I blame my mom. You know, Jim, here's the thing. In the comments, a lot of people will say, people that are older like us will say, "Oh yeah, I saw this in the theater." I mean, my dad took me to see sci-fi movies. He took me to see some movies that he really didn't want to see, but he was not a martial arts fan. He was not a Chuck Norris fan. Later on, I think he loosened up a little bit, but that was way past the time when, I mean, I was fully grown and able to take myself to the theater. But there's no way I was going to see a Chuck Norris movie in the theater, even though when I saw commercials for an eye for an eye or Good Guys Wear Black, Forced Vengeance, I wanted to see them so bad, right? You know what I mean? But yeah, so a lot of these I saw on VHS back in the day. We would rent them. Some of them would be on cable. We would watch them over and over again. And then some of them I finally saw for the first time. But very interesting to watch a bunch of his films. You kind of come away with a different perspective on Chuck Norris. I think he's really gone out of his way to be in some pretty good films and to put out some better films than a lot of people give him credit for. But we're going to get into it. So I'm going to pick 10. I've watched way more than that because the ones that I pick for next year, I'm going to want to rewatch them because I have changed my perspective a little bit here and there. So let me read you the ones I'm going to do for next year. Next year, we have A Force of One, Delta Force 2, the Missing in Action trilogy, so that's 3. Firewalker, An Eye for an Eye, which I was going to do this year. I thought I had it. I know it's on Kino, but I couldn't. I apparently didn't have it. Don't have it. So do that one next year. The Cutter, and then maybe Slaughter in San Francisco. Probably not though. That's like a Golden Harvest kung fu movie set in San Francisco. Obviously, Chuck's the bad guy in that. It's more of a Golden Harvest kung fu movie. But there's other movies like Sidekicks and some other more recent films I might do next year. I'm not really sure, but I have a year to fine tune that. But I did watch Slaughter in San Francisco the other day. I really enjoyed it, and it's actually going to be coming out on a Golden Harvest Volume 2 box set soon. So that, but yeah, just like it's kind of the same category as Way of the Dragon. Felt like a Golden Harvest kung fu movie from the time that was set somewhere else. This is set in Rome. That one is set in San Francisco. That one doesn't have any real big names other than Chuck. People, nobody that's stood the test of time. But it was a pretty good movie. So yes, so just to reiterate, I will be considering this movie for some of the special categories, but it's not going to be in the ranking. Hey, Jason, I'm glad you could stop by. Really glad you could stop by. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoy this. I really enjoyed rewatching your ranking with Joe. We're going to have some similarities and some differences. So I don't know if you heard my list of the 10 that I'm doing for next year, but we'll get to those next year. Let's get to this year. So 10 from the bottom. Okay, number 10. Speaking of sometimes having to watch a movie twice, this one, I enjoyed it. I think I saw the opening 10 minutes years ago, and kind of liked it, but was kind of intrigued by it. It's already, parts of it are already a little fuzzy, and that's actually because he's done a couple that are kind of in the supernatural realm. But it's Hellbound, number 10. Okay. Didn't hate it. You got two detectives, Shatter and Jackson. Awesome names. Pretty good co-stars. This guy, Calvin Levels, is pretty good. Pretty over-the-top bad guy, but Christopher Neame, who I pointed out was he was actually in some Hammer horror films in the early 70s. Music by George S. Clinton, but I don't remember it jumping out at me. And directed by Aaron Norris. So a pretty fun movie with some supernatural elements in it, some comedy bits, comedical elements, and they're in a foreign country, kind of fish out of water, getting pickpocketed by street kids and things like that. Like I said, I just saw it. I don't remember it that much, but I did enjoy it all the way through. It just wasn't one of his very best. So that's number 10. Echo Cerro, thanks for stopping by. Stopping by to hit the like button and say hello. I'm in the middle of watching a movie to review. Have fun with the stream, Mr. Dan. Got to get back to the movie. Take care all. Thanks, Echo, for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Jason says Norris November is the main event. Yes. So and I also wanted to mention before I started, I'm doing this a little bit out of order because I still have one more review to do on Monday. And then today, I realized I had 3 on the list that I haven't reviewed, so I did a review this morning of all 3 just to tidy everything up. Okay, continuing the tradition. Yeah, hey, we got next year, right? And then in January, I saw that our good friend, Hey Internet, it's Eric here, is going to be reviewing a bunch of Van Damme movies. So I'm probably going to review 1 or 2 and see if I can send some people his way. But anyway, let's get back to this. Number 10, Hellbound. Number 9, one that I had heard of years ago, saw for the first time this year, Hitman. Okay, Chuck Norris, Michael Parks, directed by Aaron Norris. They were in a rhythm by that point. It's pretty good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the undercover aspects of it. The different mafia and organized crime groups were very entertaining. At the end, I'm going to have my favorite villains list. Michael Parks will not be on it. Spoiler. He was okay. He was Michael Parks, but it just, that whole aspect of it didn't gel. And there is kind of a schmaltzy, overly sentimental little bit with the kid next door who Jason told me, or when I rewatched his top 10 with Joe, they mentioned that he was one of the original kids from Barney. So maybe in my deep subconsciousness, that's why that kid was bothering me so much. But, he makes friends with this kid who's getting bullied, and that's a nice message and everything. But that the bad guys are going to come for this kid and his mom. So it's like, great job, Chuck, putting them in danger. But, the action scenes, very entertaining. Next, this is going to be surprising. This is going to be very surprising for you guys. I was very surprised by this. This one didn't gel for me altogether. The parts were so much better than the whole. I remember liking years ago. I remember some kind of over the top parts. I think the best co-star he has in this is his truck, but it's actually Lone Wolf McQuade at number 8. I really liked it. I still enjoyed it. It's got a great cast. Robert Beltran. You got, like I said in my review, like I'm going to say in my review on Monday, it's got LQ and RG, LQ Jones and RG Armstrong. They're like veteran actors, always great to see them. Barbara Carrera. Carradine didn't quite live up to, I think they could have gotten more out of him, and I kind of talk about it in my review. I vaguely, maybe I should have researched a little more, but I kind of remember that maybe they had some problems with them behind the set. And by the way, what's up with those sweaters? I mean, it's kind of strange, an odd wardrobe choice for the villain, I thought, but I still enjoyed it. And does have some great scenes. I mean, when he gets buried in his truck, it's just classic stuff. Anyway, so that's number 8 overall. And Jason is crying. Okay, it's hard to see the emojis from here. Hitman was a fun one. Yep, it's definitely fun. But this one really surprised me because I really didn't know what to expect with this one. I remembered the ads for it and everything, and thinking the title sounds a little overly broad. But when you watch the film, I really like the way that they sort of explain what both parts of the title mean. Or anyway, hero in the terror. This idea that Chuck, they call him the hero, but he doesn't like it because he's taken down this guy, the Terror, who's played by Jack O'Halloran, who's very good and scary, really. And Jim, this is one, if you're still here, this is like a serial killer film with some martial arts, essentially. I mean, he takes him down almost by accident. He kind of gets lucky, and then he kind of resents when people start calling him the hero, and he has to get some advice from the guy's psychiatrist when he may or may not be dead, and he may be killing people again. And there's a depiction of one of his kill areas. Like he sets up these kill rooms. It's pretty gruesome stuff. I mean, it's pretty well done, and I really like the action. I like his character. There's almost like a standard plot with his wife, where he has to go do what he has to do, even though she's pregnant in the hospital, and it sounds a little too sounds maybe like it might be corny or something, but it actually really works well. I thought it was actually kind of touching in a way at the end. Maybe that's just me, but I thought that really worked well, that whole aspect of it. So I'm going to be looking forward to rewatching this soon. Jason says it's a favorite of his. I like Lone Wolf. I thought David's part was weak. Yeah, okay. I'm not the only one. I know David Carradine. I got the Kung Fu box set up there. Okay. I loved Kung Fu when I was a kid. But I know that he had some issues. Let's face it. Eat Line Mystery Science Theater, when they did, I think it was called like Future War or something. He had some crazy glove. He was clearly drunk and trying to cover it up with this funny walk he was doing. I mean, that's just, that's a fact. I mean, that's it just didn't pan out, but I like the way they kind of set up that he was like a former karate champion and stuff. I don't know. Yeah. But overall, I was a little surprised. I thought, given my recollection of it and the reputation, it would be higher, but it wasn't. And this one too. I mean, considering what this one is, number 6, I mean, this is probably the most martial arts movie that Chuck ever made, I think. The Octagon. I really did enjoy it. It's got a great cast. Lee Van Cleef. The set design, the depth that they go into with this terrorist training camp, which is sort of run by ninjas. Ninjas were huge in the 80s. I always do that. There's Lee Van Cleef right there in The Master TV show. But this also co-stars Lee Van Cleef, Richard Norton in 2 different roles, and some really good villains as well. We'll talk more about them at the end. Art Hindle is kind of his right-hand guy, he's been a staple of so many genres, horror, action, Cronenberg films. The ending is incredible. The set design is incredible. This training camp is awesome. It's got all kinds of different rooms and boardwalks over water, and ninjas are coming out of the water, and there's all kinds of different weapons. It's really phenomenal stuff. They did some fantastic stunts. As I said in my review of it, at one point, Richard Norton disarmed somebody with those 2 knives, the sai, and the director slowed it down. The director was like fascinated by that. He actually went on his own and slowed it down and counted how many frames it took. It was like he made the sword disappear. So there's some really good martial arts stuff in this film. But I do agree with you and Joe, Jason, when you said the middle part gets a little muddled. But then when you get to the end, it's awesome. Oh, the Whisper. Yeah, I was going to make a video and I was going to be like, it's time for another Chuck Norris. And I watched the making of, and this was who? Ted Post? No, okay, this was directed by Eric Carson. Okay, that was a different one with Ted Post. Which is funny because I've been watching all episodes of The Rifleman, and Ted Post directed some of those, and then he's directing Chuck Norris movies. But yeah, they kind of explained what they were going for. That was they got that from, because sometimes he just has a narrative, but in this one with the whispering back and forth and kind of questioning, they were kind of making it seem like it was all cosmical. I think there's a term for that, and they got it from like musical theater or something. It was kind of strange, but it's entertaining. I think, that's the best way I'll put it. I kind of liked it for what it was, but he does have a narrative in a lot of his films, and some of his little lines can be. There's a couple that are a little goofy, but a couple of them are actually kind of philosophical in some of his movies. So I don't think he leaned as heavily into that. Let's put it this way: I don't think he leaned as heavily into the philosophy part as Bruce Lee would have if he still lived and made another 5 movies. Anyway. Tangent, but number 5 rather. This one has like kind of a good historical context, great kind of a snapshot of Hong Kong at the time. I went on my friend's channel, the Mad Bloods, and gave him a list of my top 15 martial arts movies. I wanted to put a Chuck on there, so at the time I went with this one because I had just seen it. So I love the cover. I love this fight here in front of the neon lights. So rewatching it, it kind of pretty much stayed where it was. I thought maybe I would like it even more, but I guess I was so impressed with it the first time. It kind of just stayed where it was. Good action scenes. There's a lot of chasing. Some pretty good co-stars for sure. The villain is played by Michael Cavanaugh. He's really good. Very seasoned character actor. All kinds of TV and stuff. Just an enjoyable film and a very interesting look at Hong Kong, like the setting. So that's number 5. Then we got number 4. Objectively, one of his best movies. I've rewatched this again, had a blast with it. I remember Henry Silva was on like one of those late night, Carson, or I think it was Carson years ago after the movie debuted. He was talking about it and how much he liked it and everything. He was a pretty good villain. He's mostly just kind of like mean looking and kind of sneered, but a lot of really good characters in this, mafia types and cops. Of course, I'm talking about Code of Silence. Okay. Very well-written film. Great sort of, as I said in my review this morning, kind of like almost a Serpico type plot weaved in there where the cops have a code of silence and they leave Chuck out to dry, so he becomes a one-man army, as one of the officers says. It's directed by Andrew Davis, very good director. Went on to direct The Fugitive. A lot of the same character actors appear in this, and this is just as fun. This is just like a really good, solid cop movie with some, obviously some martial arts. And also, I went back and watched an interview that he did on late night TV, Chuck, where he talked about how he wanted to make this one more realistic. So when he went into a room with 15 guys, and this time, he started beating up some of them, but eventually he got his ass kicked. So he wanted to sort of portray a more realistic kind of fighting, some more realistic fighting scenes. Columbia necktie. Yeah, that is pretty cool when he's talking about the Columbia necktie. The rape and death of his best friend disturbed me when I was little. Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, definitely for sure. Yeah, that was pretty gruesome. Actually, and to be honest, it's like the one mobster's daughter has to go on the run. Those are harrowing scenes when they're chasing her and Chuck has to help her out. I mean, it's like, you're really like terrified for her. Yeah, just a really good movie. So that's number 4. Then we got number 3. Number 3 could be number 1, depending on your mood. The next 3 are really very tough to sort of categorize, for sure. But I'm going with Invasion USA, Watched it last year, rewatched it. I remembered much of it from when I was a kid, young man, let's say. But just tons of fun. I can watch it again right now. It's so much fun. It's got a great villain. Richard Lynch is over the top. Everything is over the top. Just rocket launchers galore. Great Christmas movie. It's just pure canon. I mean, the fact that he's front and center on this canon set, the bombs, babes, and blockbusters of canon films is just completely appropriate. You don't want to have Stallone from over the top. That doesn't cut it. Even Charles Bronson. I mean, to me, that's the canon film. It's tons of fun. Next, two more. What do we got? I rewatched this one again, and it's had a great time with it. I just think it's very underrated, and it's the kind of movie that people crap on, and it's just really good. It's a great horror movie. Everybody in it's good. As I said in my review this morning, nobody is like overdoing it. Chuck never overdid it anyway, but a lot of the conversations feel like you're in the room with them, like you're a fly on the wall. You're just listening to these conversations. Nobody's like, acting per se. You're just like there. It feels totally realistic, and considering that the plot is what it is. Of course, it's Silent Rage. I love this, the little insert here with the EKG, which kind of tells you a little bit about the plot. There's elements of Frankenstein in here, certainly elements of Halloween. And it's a lot of fun. Ron Silver's great. Brian Libby as the bad guy was great. I love the fact that he was in the Octagon, and then he in a smaller role, and then he appeared in this film. I forget the name of the sister of Ron Silver. I'll get to it in a minute, but she was good. Stephen Furst is good. That's a very, kind of poignant kind of relationship that Chuck has with his subordinate officer who lacks confidence. So all those scenes were good, and he does kick ass. He kicks a bunch of bikers' asses up and down the street. What did they have in the credits? They had something. They had a way of describing the biker's girlfriend in the credits. It was hilarious. It was like, wow, I forget. It's funny though. But I have to read the chapter titles on this because whoever wrote these were having fun. Scene selections. We got to start. Then we got Whack Attack, Sheriff Dan Stevens. So, hey, if there's a sequel, maybe Dan Stevens can play Dan Stevens. I don't know. Under Arrest, Extreme Prejudice, Brain Dead. The people that wrote this were horror fans. Come on. The Test Formula, Allison Hallman. That's the ex-girlfriend that he kind of hooks up with again. Back from the Dead, For Old Time's Sake, Punk Control, Deranged Genetic Structure, Giving Up Easy, Return of the Living Dead, Party Poopers, In the Neighborhood, It's the Time for Love, Nancy Hallman, sister of, wife of Ron Silver, Kirby's House Call, it's a terrifying house call, Watcher in the Attic, Discovering the Bodies, Breaking the Bad News, Terminator Terminated, Phil goes to his reward, Goodbye Charlie, Emergency Exit, Hit, Run, and Burn, and Chuck Amuck. Oh, I forgot. Darn it. I have to add the banner. Hold on a sec. There we go. Yeah, Brian Libby's so disturbing. He really is. He's just scary. The POV shots when he comes in the house, the stalking. I mean, they really, and then when people find the aftermath, it's gruesome. I mean, he's really good. But speaking of villains, hang on, because I'm pretty, he's going to be on the list of my favorite villains. But I might have a surprise in there regarding this film. So great film. That leaves number one. Who knows? This could change. I just thought this was such a tight movie. Just a great thriller. Somebody reviewed it recently, and they weren't really into it, but I mean, I loved it. I thought it's more like a political thriller. It's got a great historical context with post-Vietnam War. the POWs. That was all the rage back then. I mean, Chuck made a bunch of them. Carradine made one. Uncommon Valor. Rambo. Second one. This film really handles all that very intelligently and smartly, I think. It's got a lot of good guys in it. I didn't mention Soon Taek Oh, who was actually a Korean actor. He's all over the place in the 70s and 80s. Oh, I did mention him in the review. He's good in this. Everybody in this good. James Franciscus, small role by Jim Backus, Dana Andrews, a lot of familiar faces, Ann Archer. I mean, she's, really like a very strong character in this too. Not just pretty, but very determined, intelligent character. Good guys wear black. I just absolutely loved it this time around. Even more than last time I saw it. Good Guys Wear Black was my second Chuck movie ever. Yeah. That's sort of the era. The Octagon, this one, Eye for an Eye, maybe Forced Vengeance. I remember seeing all the ads on TV. I wanted to go see him so bad, but like I said in the beginning, my dad was not a Chuck fan. So, okay, this is directed by Ted Post. Yeah, really good direction too, overall, and just good action scenes, but really like a political thriller. Whereas if someone else was in the role, if Burt Lancaster was in the role, there would be running and action, and he was really in good shape. The reason I thought of Burt Lancaster is I had one on the shelf called Scorpio, which I got from Dollar Tree. He was a little bit older than that. He was still kind of doing stunts, lots of climbing and jumping and stuff. But he probably wouldn't have done a spinning back kick, is what I'm saying. He wouldn't have kicked a guy off a motorcycle. Just apart from a few scenes like that, you could pretty much substitute any sort of leading man in here. And I think this film would be regarded as a very solid political thriller. That's what I think. All hail to the legend, Chuck Norris. Yes, Cult Flicks 24. How you doing, Leon? Hope you're well. I just did my top 10 of the films that I did this year. I'm going to go over the list for next year. Again, subject to change. A Force of One, Delta Force 2, Missing in Action, all three of them. Slaughter in San Francisco, maybe. Firewalker, An Eye for an Eye, and The Cutter. And who knows, I may take out Slaughter in San Francisco and put in like sidekicks or something. I'm not really sure. That's for next year. So now I'm going to get to the special categories. Okay. And remember, in case you missed the beginning of the stream, I am including in the special categories Way of the Dragon, aka Return of the Dragon, because it does have a very significant Chuck part, even though it's really more of a Bruce Lee movie. And by the way, speaking of martial arts, upcoming martial arts Mondays, I'm going to get back to reviewing the Bruce Lee films in this set, all 5 of his films. And I got this from special order the other day, pre-order rather, Twilight of the Warriors Walled In with Sammo Hung. Man, quite a movie, let me tell you. So I'll be reviewing that soon. Leon, have you heard of this? Are you interested in this? I think you'd probably like it, to be honest with you. It's really good. And Jason, you'd like it too. Anybody who likes martial arts or action would like that film. So anyway, special categories. My favorite fights. Okay. Start at the bottom. I'm going to go Forced Vengeance to climax on the boat. I think he beats up a couple henchmen. Then the villain, Ramondi, played by Michael Cavanaugh. He's a good character actor. As a villain, as a mafia type guy, you could have taken that character and put him in any kind of a mob movie, Scorsese movie or anything. He would have been just fine. He would have been right at home. But then at the end, he grabs that like boat hook thing, which is like a staff, and he does some pretty good moves. So you don't really know that the character knows martial arts until the end. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing or bad thing. Remember in Action Jackson, we had that scene where Craig T. Nelson broke the guy's arm to establish the fact that he was, trained in martial arts. I don't know. I'm 50-50 on that one, but it was a good fight scene for sure at the end of the movie. Like the end of Key Largo, but with martial arts. Number 4, I got a tie. The end of Silent Rage and the end of Hero and the Terror together. They're both awesome. Chuck's got to pull out some different moves. Now, when it comes to Hero and the Terror, by that time, Chuck was well into his jiu-jitsu black belt. I think he started training in 1980. So both of those villains are unconventional. You you can kick at him all you want. You're not making much of a dent. So you got to come up with some other moves. So at the end of both of those movies, he actually does a similar move, which is a little bit atypical for Chuck. Great climaxes there in both movies. Number 3, the Octagon. I mean, there's so much of it that could be considered a great fight. I guess I'll just zero in on like whenever I probably should have rewatched it, to be honest with you, the climax, but whenever he met up with Richard Norton's ninja character and they fought, that was awesome. So I'll just say that for right now. Number 2, Forced Vengeance. That fight in front of the neon sign. Awesome. Just looked awesome. Beautifully filmed. Awesome moves. And Leon's heard of that one, but I haven't watched it. Love some kung fu flicks. Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. It's great set design, but then the outside of it is like CGI, and instead of using wires for people getting kicked into the air, I think they're using CGI, but there's still a lot of good martial arts. So it's kind of a combination of old and new, but it works really well. Mary Louise Weller was in it. Forced Vengeance. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Good. Another good cast. And this one was directed by James Fargo, who directed a couple Clint Eastwood movies. Chuck really worked with some good directors. I guess a discussion would be, should he have kept working with directors like Ted Post and James Fargo, or should he have eventually partnered up with his brother Aaron and just worked with him? I don't know. Number 1. Where is it? It's got to be. Come on now. The end fight in Way of the Dragon, a.k.a. Return of the Dragon. Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee in the Coliseum. All kinds of great kicks, great moves. Chuck gets some good, he scores some good points on Bruce before Bruce starts dancing around and does his thing. Great fistfuls of chest hair. It's awesome. Chuck had a lot of babes in his films. Yep, I'm getting to that, Patrick. I'm getting to that. Thanks for stopping by, Patrick. Favorite female co-star love interest. To be honest, I probably should have some more on this. I've only got like 3. I should probably have more. So that would enforce vengeance. His girlfriend and his sort of adopted sister that he has to take on the run. They were both very good. So they would probably should have made the list. They were both very good. But then you got from Silent Rage, Allison Hallman, played by Toni Callum, who apparently would go on to be on The Sopranos. I didn't watch it, but she was very good. The old flame of Chuck's that is the sister of the Ron Silver character. She was really good. Really, when she was scared, she was scared. She did a really good job. I know. I still laugh when Bruce Lee rips Chuck's chest hairs in that fight scene. Boy, his back. Speaking of Sasquatch, Patrick, his back. I mean, my kids call me Sasquatch when they see me at the pool, but man, I actually put that in my review. I said I have to show that fistful of hair. It's great. Yeah, so she was good. And then next I have Barbara Carrera in Lone Wolf McQuade. Beautiful. To be honest, I don't know if that was the most challenging role for her, but she was something else to look at for sure. But my favorite one is, I just mentioned her, Ann Archer in Good Guys Wear Black. Smart, determined, beautiful. Jennifer O'Neill. Yeah, I forgot about her. Yeah, I really, this was the list that I spent the least amount of time on probably, but she's probably my favorite. That was my number 1 film, so she was a big part of that. Favorite male co-star. You had a lot of good sidekicks, partners, male co-stars, excluding villains. So this is kind of in no particular order. I think I'm going to pick a number 1 though. Dennis Farina in Code of Silence. Great chemistry. Dennis Farina is so relaxed in that movie, so natural. He was a cop, of course, so it works really well. The humor really works. Then you got the Octagon. You got Lee Van Cleef and Art Hindle. I didn't quite get enough Van Cleef. Wait a minute. See, I cannot do that. There he is. Van Cleef as the master right there. Check that out, Patrick. Would have liked to have had a little more Van Cleef. Seemed like a little bit of Van Cleef on autopilot, you know what I mean? But he's still fun to watch. Art Hindle as his sort of partner. His character was kind of annoying. He was kind of too headstrong, but it's good for Chuck to have like a right-hand man. Clarence Gillard, Walker, Texas Ranger. Yeah. I haven't really seen Walker, Texas Ranger, but I know who Clarence Gillard is. Yeah. I think I must have seen an episode or two. I know who he is, but yeah, I might get into some Walker, Texas Ranger between now and next year. Who knows? Then you got Ron Silver as Dr. Holman. Just, solid actor. Good role. He tries to disengage from the experiments that bring John Kirby back, but doesn't quite work out for him. But good actor. And then you got probably my favorite. I'm going to go with Lloyd Haynes from Good Guys Wear Black as Murray Sanders, sort of Chuck's contact, if you will, in the government. The guy that, he's trying to tread a fine line with Chuck. He's trying to let Chuck do his things, but not sort of get caught breaking the law. Sort of that kind of a dynamic. So they're not always like seeing eye to eye, but it's kind of it's a very good portrayal. It never appears like cartoonish or goofy. Yeah, Lee Van Cleef, the master. That pitch meeting must have been great. I know. I'll tell you this, Patrick. I remember watching the first episode when they showed Lee Van Cleef. My dad was just like, Lee Van Cleef in this? He wasn't that old when he passed either. He just looked old for like a number of years. But and my son and I have a joke because of watching Good and the Bad and the Ugly and then Escape from New York. And I think we saw Lee Van Cleef in another film, and he just kind of looked at me like, again with this guy? New Jersey's own Lee Van Cleef. So yeah, Lloyd Haynes, he's really, really good in that. Now we got the villains. Ready? Here we go with some villains. All right, we got Jack O'Halloran from New Jersey as the Terror in Hero and the Terror. He's very good, scary, very scary. Another one, here's one that might be surprising to you. As far as the villains, we got Chuck Norris as the villain. He plays Colt, the kickboxer who the Syndicate sends after Bruce Lee. I don't think he's the most evil person in the world. He's just working for the Syndicate. He thinks it's a challenge, and they have an awesome fight. But it's Chuck being a villain. So Chuck's on the list of villains, too. Then we got James Franciscus playing Conrad Morgan in Good Guys Wear Black. Just kind of that slippery, slimy, backroom dealing politician. Will do anything to get promoted. He's got, Dana Andrews is older than him, but he works for him, and he's kind of like dismissive of him, and he's just he's cocky, he's arrogant, good villain. Then we got Michael Cavanaugh. Like I said, he played Stan Raimondi in Forced Vengeance. Just great sort of mafia type guy who whipped out some really good moves at the end. Marshall Teague fought Chuck 7 times in Walker. Yeah, 7 different characters. That's kind of like Bob Wall showing up in a lot of these movies as Thug, or something like that. I almost wish, and I know he was on Walker, Texas Ranger. I mean, I kind of wish he would have been like one of the main villains. Maybe he was like a main thug at least. But yeah, isn't it funny how they did that? And I'll tell you, Patrick, I'm watching The Rifleman. Man, did they reuse a lot of the same actors? Good Lord. Sometimes like 2 or 3 episodes. I'm not even talking about in different seasons, but man, it's kind of fun to watch though. And then we got Octagon. I'm putting both of the Octagon villains together. You got Richard Norton. He plays 2 roles, but he's like the head ninja in red. Scary, great moves. He's like the enforcer. If any of the recruits get out of line, he, takes care of them. And then you got Chuck's adopted brother in that, who's turned evil and now is running this ninja training camp. He's played by Tadashi Yamashita as Sakura. He's just permanent scowl on his face. Great villain, just mean and nasty. Back when studios owned actors. Yeah, right. He was like, hey, Claude Akins, you're going to be on The Rifleman again. Yeah, exactly. Next, we've got, and Jason, I hope you appreciate this one if you're still here. We got Stephen Keats as Dr. Spires in Forced Vengeance, in Silent Rage. He was really kind of a bad guy, really. Like, you know what I mean? Like Ron Silver was like, we did some experiments we shouldn't do, but now he's dead. And then Dr. Spires goes behind his back and resuscitates him again. Apparently Stephen Keats was in that Robert Mitchum movie, Friends of Eddie Coyle. He's known for that movie. Apparently he has a small part, and he steals a lot of scenes in that. But he was really good in this. Just, yeah, like a bad guy. He was a bad guy. Maybe he was the true monster. You know, Dr. Frankenstein and John Kirby's Frankenstein's monster. Oh, Lee Van Cleef played a good guy in season 5. I can't wait for that because I've already seen him at least 2 or 3 times. And Warren Oates, too. Yeah, I can't wait for that. Yeah, I'm in the middle. I'm at the beginning of season 3. Unfortunately, the only one I have on DVD, I think, is season 4, but they're on YouTube. Next. Come on. You got to go with Brian Libby as John Kirby in Silent Rage. He's scary. He's supernatural. He's not supernatural, but he's scientifically augmented. You know, Chuck's kicking him, and it's not having any effect. They think he's dead a few times. He keeps coming back. So he's a scary guy. You know, just great facial expressions. I don't care what anybody says. It's a really good performance from him. So, yeah, that's number 2. My number 1 is, hold on a second, Silent Rage reminds me of the original Halloween. Oh, yeah, I think they were definitely going for that. It was like Michael Myers without a mask, you know, and there were times when Brian Libby's face was like this. He was just like, you know, but then there were times when he was going through his episodes where he was like, oh, you know, very conflicted and everything, more like Frankenstein's monster. So I think they were really referencing a lot of horror movies in that film. Sidekicks could be for next year, Patrick. I might take out, I got Slaughter in San Francisco on the list for next year, but that's more of a supporting role for Chuck and more of a Golden Harvest Kung Fu movie than a Chuck movie. So I might throw that one in. Joe Piscopo is Kelly Sloan. Yeah, Piscopo. I like Piscopo, but I don't think I've ever seen it, to be honest with you. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen Sidekicks, so I probably should put that one on the list for next year. I'll definitely watch it between now and next year. Anyway, number 1 villain. Who do you guys think? Number 1 villain in a Chuck Norris movie. I wish Jim from Jim's Movie Channel was here. This would probably be his number 1 movie, too. Invasion USA. Richard Lynch as Rostov. I always like Richard Lynch. It's just so crazy, over the top. It's just, you know, takes out a whole neighborhood, celebrating Christmas with rocket launchers. He's just deranged. You know, he has that meeting with Billy Drago. You know, you think Billy Drago is going to be like one of the villains, but in this movie, like, he's just like, you know, a stepping stone for Richard Lynch. Takes him out. He's just pure evil. It's over the top. It's great. I reviewed, what was the name of the movie that I reviewed? Open Season, with Richard Lynch, Peter Fonda, and John Philip Law. If you guys want to check that on the channel, that's a very interesting movie where the 3 of them are like the 3 bad guys in the film. And he's good in that. He's very good in that. He was also in a very underappreciated and underseen made-for-TV movie called, I think it's simply called Vampire. And it's kind of a straightforward plot about a vampire that comes back, but it's just good, and he looks awesome in the you know, the vampire costume and makeup and everything. He's like great. He was awesome in The Baron. I got to see that one. I haven't seen The Baron. Yeah, he's so good. He's just so evil, Rostov, and I like the way that some of Chuck's movies, like Hero and the Terror, he's wrestling with everything. You know, he's like obsessed with the terror, and he's conflicted about it. In this, he's just Chuck. You know, he's just straightforward Chuck. Uzi's blazing, but the Richard Lynch character is obsessed with him, and he's like, oh, you know, he can't leave him alone. He can't, you know, they're trying to instigate this terrorist plot, but he can't, despite his better judgment, he wants to go after Chuck because he just can't forget him. Just a great tortured role. I like villains like that, like the Scorpio in Dirty Harry, a great underrated villain. Sometimes it takes two to tango. I kind of like when villains lose their shit sometimes, not when they're just mindless, unstoppable killers. So that's my top 10 list. Those are some of my favorite films. You need to see Richard on Vegas. He played a crazy who thought he was Wayne Newton. Oh, yeah. See, I got to see that for sure. Yeah. I know he was in so much stuff that I haven't seen. He was in God Told Me To. I know. I think his final performance was in the first Laid to Rest film, I think. But and then he was in some not so good movies, let's be real. But the one werewolf movie they did on Mystery Science Theater, but he was good. He's like magnetic, So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this. My top 10 Chuck Norris films with some special other favorites of mine. Like I said, next year, that's a tissue. Like I said, next year, I've already got my list picked out of 10 more I want to watch. I may tweak it a little bit, but I really enjoyed this Norris November. Don't just come back next year for Norris November. Come back in between. I just have one more Chuck Norris movie to do. That's to review. That'll be Lone Wolf McQuade on Monday for Martial Arts Monday. And then it's back to either Bruce Lee or Twilight of the Warriors for the next martial arts review. And then we go back to whoever. Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris. Probably not Chuck Norris for a while. Van Damme, Jet Li. Any Shaw Brothers or Golden Harvest movies. What have you. He played a good guy in Double Nickel. I haven't seen that, I don't think. But yeah, I could see him playing a good guy as well, for sure. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for coming out, and I'll talk to you guys soon. And have a good Thanksgiving, and I'll see you next time.